A very good morning to all. I would just request all the participants who are joining. We'll just be waiting for a few more of them to be joining, and we'll be beginning shortly. We'll just wait for a few more minutes for more participants to join, and we'll be beginning shortly. A very good morning to all. Welcome to today's webinar, Creativity, a Key to Way Forward, part of the Corporate Dynamics series. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. Today's webinar is hosted by Nagindas Khanwala College, Mumbai. The college was founded in July 1983 and is one of the best colleges in the western suburbs of Mumbai. It has been imparting quality education since the last 4 decades. The college is affiliated to University of Mumbai and reaccredited by UGC NAC with A grade. The college has shown tremendous growth in a short span of time and has been conferred the autonomous college status in the academic year 16-17. Mission Skills is an initiative by Nagindas Khanwala College and the Center for Sports Management. We are extremely thankful to respected Principal Dr. Ansi Rose ma'am and Dr. Varsha Ainapure ma'am for giving us this opportunity. So before we start, I would just like to tell you all how you will be able to talk to us during this webinar. There will be a small Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can drop in your questions and we will be having a Q&A session at the end and we will be taking those questions from all the attendees. So yes, coming to the topic for today, creativity. So when we talk about creativity, some of you may be imagining a painter, painting something on a canvas, is it? But creativity isn't only about design and art. It's also about using new ways of thinking and structuring something. It's about putting the pieces together for a better outcome. If you see a problem or are in any situation and having the conviction that things can get better, finding a way to make it right, make it happen, that is creativity. Creativity matters as a life skill at any age and in every industry. Business creativity comes in various shapes and sizes. Using different approaches can help your startup become more innovative and deal with a number of situations. I'm sure today, amongst the attendees, we have a lot of excited boys and girls who want to become entrepreneurs and are looking out for ways to make their startup happen. So I'm very glad to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Abhay Garg. Mr. Garg holds an MSc in Finance from London Business School and is a chartered accountant and company secretary. He served on the boards of several companies across sectors such as energy, education, agriculture, and many more. Mr. Garg currently serves as the CEO of Baytree, which is an online marketplace that connects investors with early stage enterprises. He is a career finance professional with more than 15 years of experience across investments, banking, and taxation. I would request Abhay sir to please join us for this session. The session is over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sneha. Just a quick test check. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, sir, you're audible and
Okay,
visible.
super. So good morning, boys and girls. Very happy and excited to be with you guys virtually. Though would have been great if we could have done this in person. I think there are certain house rules. I understand. We will have Q&A at the end of the session. Generally encourage Q&A as I go along, but given that we have started living in the virtual world more than the real world now, as far as business is concerned, please, I think don't reserve your questions, don't hold them back, just type them in, and Sneha will moderate and take care of them as I go along the slides, and we can then pick them up towards the end of the session. I understand I have around 45 to 50 minutes of speaking time, which is quite a bit, and then I will reserve a lot more time for Q&A, because that's what I like to do. I like to hear more than I like to speak. Right. With that, let's start and dive deep into what creativity holds for all of us. Yeah, I will just share my screen. We will go to a presentation now. And here we are. All right. Okay. So let's just put this in presentation mode. Cool. Creativity key to way forward. Okay, so this is what I call the textbook definition of creativity. It is the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality, right? So let's look at the 2 or 3 key terms out here: new and imaginative ideas, right, into reality. And creativity, as Neha mentioned, spans across specters, right? You can have creativity in fine arts, you have creativity across sciences, you have creative mathematics, creative accounting, and how does creativity apply in the general context of business? I think, as Neha mentioned, a quick background about myself. I've worked with startups in the last 10 odd years now. Prior to that, in the investing world, as well as banking and taxation. What we're going to do now today is going to restrict the scope of creativity to ideas in the business world. And I'm going to talk a lot more about how we translate these ideas into reality. I think we are all romanticized about the idea of creativity and about the idea of ideas. But I want to talk a lot more in this session about what it means to translate an idea into reality in the business context. And what I'm also going to try and attempt to do is, when I say business context, it's not just going to be a startup. I'm going to try and draw upon how it also applies, let's say, in allied fields, which is, let's say, a marketing, whether it's HR or human resources and management. So we will try and apply the generic principles that we discuss about ideas and translating them into reality, not just in the context of running a business, but parts of businesses, which it could include, as I said, various other functions, whether it's production, managing a team, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's distribution, right? Let's move forward. Okay, so I'm sure everybody knows this picture. This is Archimedes, and he's just, he's in his bathtub. He's discovered the idea that how do I measure gold from silver when there is some adulteration, right? So this is great. He gets out of his bathtub and he runs to the king's court, right? This happens to us, and I hope it happens to us, because you guys are the next generation. It happens to you. You have that moment of discovery, or this moment of a blaze which goes, oh fine, wow, I discovered something, and I think this can really turn into something big. But then what after? I mean, you are in the bathtub and then you get up and you run, but then the reality then has changed now. So let's see how the reality sinks in and how you translate an idea into what will be a good idea in the business world, in the real world, right? So here is where I want to take some time to understand what lies beyond the idea. What do you do once you think you've landed on something which is mind-blowing, which is going to change the world that we live in? Let us dive deep into the elements of what how you convert an idea into something big, right? I think the first one is, you have to identify who your customer is, right? And what is the demand or what is the need that you are going to meet, right? We often get lost in just being too romantic, as I said, about an idea. We don't we think about an individual customer or just an individual while we think of an idea. I think it is very important to go beyond just one person or one constituency when you think of an idea, right? And I'll come to also discussing what how it links to your market size and how big is the market for an idea, right? So I think the first and foremost size is step is to think who are the customers for an idea, and this applies, as I said, across the business functions. If you're on the production floor, right, or if you're in the HR department, or if you're in the marketing team, right, if you are you going to solve the problem for one person, one department, one factory, or one industry, or one state, or one village, or one country, or one continent, right? So that's how you think big, right? And that's how you think about your customer. If you're thinking about yourself, saying, okay, fine, I think that's how you identify the idea, when you think about yourself and you put yourself in that position. But when you have to apply this idea and make it big and make it a success, then you need to think about all the customers and what's the size of those customers, right? So let's take an example, right? Let's say if you are trying to solve the problem of employees commute, right? Now I'm saying employees commute in the current context, right? Which is the world that we are living in, and you're in the HR department, right? Now you've got to think of all your employees in various locations and think of an integrated solution, right? That's the point I'm trying to get at, is that are you looking at all your customers? Secondly, are you looking at creating a new demand or meeting an unmet demand, right? So Uber is a great example. I think transportation and public transportation and mass transport existed, but there was a need which was not met, right? And that's the need they started meeting by creating an alternate or a parallel. That's what I mean when I say meeting an unmet demand. And the other one is creating demand, right? uh, Creating demand, you can say a very close example is all your food delivery businesses, right? That has created demand or to incremental demand in your need for ordering food, right? So if you see the data, once food delivery came into place, your demand for restaurant or food or outside food increased, so that created a demand. So I think those are the sort of broad principles when you think about your customer. Is what's the size of your customer, or what kind of customers, or what numbers of customers you're talking about, and are you creating a demand or are you meeting an unmet demand, right, or an unmet need, right? And as I said again, it transcends across functions, right? Whether it's even production, if you're on the shop floor, are you making life easier for your workers or your shop mechanics, or are you if they're in a pain and something is not being addressed to, are you meeting that kind of a demand, right? Secondly, I think we again we try to trivialize numbers. What are your unit economics? Now let me explain this to you with another example, right? So let's say let's look at again the food business, right? So let's look at a Pizza Hut or a Domino's, right? When I say what is unit economics, is what is the calculation for servicing one unit of your demand, right? Whether it is one customer or one delivery that you're going to make, or one shop that you're going to, or a center that you're going to establish, right? Have you thought through clearly what that one center and the unit economics for that center mean, right? And again, a lot of us just think about, I've seen enough youngsters think big about numbers, which is great, which is the first point that I mentioned. But then I think it is about zooming out and zooming in, and zooming out and zooming in, right? So then you zoom in and say, okay, fine. If I'm going to, once I've zoomed out and seen the size of my customers, I zoom in and see what does each customer mean for me in terms of revenues and costs, right? It could be just a cost center, but then what does it mean even in terms of cost, and how am I going to recover the cost? And that's what I mean by unit economics, right? The third is, as I said, your share of the market. Okay, and this applies more in terms of a business idea. It doesn't apply in terms of internal functions such as in HR or marketing, but it applies more in context of the business that you are going to run as far as the idea is concerned, right? So yes, there may be, 100,000 cabs running on the road. You might put in X number of cabs. What is the size? So what is, to begin with, what is the size of the market, right? And then within that size of the market, where do you stand and your idea stands, and how much do you want to capture of the market, right? And then there are again two theories on this, right? Is your intervention or idea going to increase the overall pie, as we say, right? So if the pie is, it's like, if are you go to buy a cake, and if it's a half a kg cake, is your intervention going to make the cake itself bigger, or are you going to get a bigger share of the cake, right? So that's very important to understand. And I can tell you this, that again, by data, in the initial stages, whenever Uber entered any single market, their idea was actually to double the size of the market itself. They were not saying that if a given city has a 100 crore revenue market, we are going to get 25 crores out of it. Their initial hypothesis of entering a market was, if it's a 100 crore market, we will make it 200 crores, right? So that is extremely important. What is the market you're targeting? What is the size of the market? And where are you going to fit in the market over a period of time, right? So try and understand that. Again, a lot of data mining required, a lot of hypothesis required in terms of how you build it out. But it's extremely important not to be not to be blown away by big numbers and small numbers, but to do the numbers very well, right? The next one is extremely important for me. I think it's number one. I think I should, I'm going to change the order on this one, because as I'm seeing it increasingly play out, right? Please don't hold back from sharing your idea. In a sense, in a manner of speaking, co-opt your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, whoever it is, on the idea, right? What does this mean, right? It means that two is better than one, and four is better than two. Okay, so there has been a study which has been conducted where the investing community was asked about the preference as far as founders were concerned for the companies in terms of the number of founders, and the results were very surprising, or not so surprising, right? The first preference was if the idea or the company or the business was being run by two people. Okay, so two is the first preference. The next best preference was actually four, followed by one, and then three, right? So more than four is a crowd. Okay, as far as starting out a business or an idea, or developing a business is concerned, the best case is to have two people. And again, studies have proved over a period of time why two people are so much better. And within that, if you have a combination of a male and a female, that's one of the best combinations that I've seen as far as even my investing career is concerned, right? So two is best, followed by four, and then one, and then three, right? Three is generally not, one would intuitively think you have a three and you will have somebody taking the role of the person who enforces a compromise, but that's precisely the reason why three is not preferred, where one person just keeps playing the referee's role, right? So what's the point I'm trying to make here? I think we tend to hold back, we tend to be defensive, we tend to be discreet. We think let's keep the idea to ourselves. I think again, studies and time has proved that sharing only increases the pie, right? And it only enhances, it only strengthens the pie, it only helps you iron out the edges, right? So there are innumerable benefits of ensuring that there are more than one person in the boat. And I would strongly encourage, if there is something brewing in your head, just go out and have a chat with one of your best friends, or somebody in the house, and just say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What is this? Does this really make sense, right? Do you think this can fly? And I can tell you, any thoughts or any concerns that somebody is going to steal it or somebody is going to take it away, I can tell you guys, if somebody came to you with asking for advice, I don't think you are ever going to think of stealing it, or ever going to think, okay, let me build on this. It's very rare. Not that it does not happen, but in the context, in the times, in the lives that we live in, everybody's got a lot on their plates, right? And if you are going to run with something with the passion that you have, I can bet you that there is no real risk. I'd rather have a co-founder who has heard me out, who identifies with the idea, who is ready to run with me, who understands me as much as he understands the idea, right? So I would strongly encourage go out there, speak about it, share it, and collect feedback, right? Finally, this is more from a venture world, the last line that I have written, but I retained it there. And some of you may take some time in grasping it. I will just leave it there. I will not dwell a lot on it. But what I'm trying to say is that in the worlds again that we live in, and particularly in the times of the COVID, where businesses are struggling, I can tell you the only ones which are surviving or will survive are the ones which have retained or managed to retain cash. Now, what does that mean? Okay, it simply means that restrict losses if you're making losses. Don't just run for volumes, right? That I have these many customers, or I have these many participants on my webinar, or I have these many products that I've distributed for free, or these many discounts that I've doled out. That is volume, right? What is the profit? And that goes back to my question on unit economics. What is the profit that you're making per customer, or what's the profit that you're making per sale, right? And what is the cash in hand that you have in your bank, right? And you as students would know, right? It doesn't matter how many movies you watched in a month or a week, or what really matters for you is how much cash do you have in your wallet at the end of the month. And that is true for any idea, any business, any concept that you're developing, whether you are running your HR department, whether you are doing your marketing budgets, whether you're on the shop floor running production. The first thing after everything is being discussed, okay, the idea is great, everybody's going to enjoy it, and it's beneficial. How much is it going to cost, or what is the profit in it, or where is the cash going to come from, right? So I always tell this now. I've always maintained this, and I've always now saying it louder and clearer. Retain cash. Look at your cash. Always have an eye on the cash. Whatever accounting you may follow, whatever idea that you develop, what is the cash behind the idea, right? So cash, guys, extremely important. Profit follows, and of course volume is just vanity. If you have the top line numbers saying, oh, by the way, on the YouTube channel I had 100,000 hits, so what? For me, that is so what does that mean? Did you charge even $1 per user, per viewer? What is the cash you generated? Did you ever make any profit? For me, the $100,000 viewer number doesn't really make any. It doesn't move a needle for me, except that I know that there are people who are very happy to listen to you for free, right? So you've got to look at the cash in this, right? Okay. Now that you have an idea, you've taken care of what I said in the previous slide. You've looked at the unit economics. You've got a co-founder. You know your market. You know your customer. You have the cash. What do we do with the idea? Okay, what happens next, right? How do I take an idea from one user to a million users, to from one city to one state to one country, right? And here is a sort of a roadmap, what I call from blueprint to scale. And there is an interesting blueprint to scale report which has been written by Acumen. It's free to download. You can go to the Acumen website and download it as well. As the term suggests, right, from blueprint, okay, developing the blueprint for the future business, the idea, how do you have clear, distinct, discrete steps of taking it to scale, right? And I will run you quickly through these 4 steps and what it entails, and what are the checkpoints, right, that you use to see that you are making progress. Or as I say, if you want to fail, you fail faster, right? There is this concept again of failing faster than slower, because that means you save time and money for everyone. But we're not talking about failures here. We're talking about scaling up your idea, again in the context of various functions, right? So blueprint, okay, you have a demonstrated product prototype, or a service idea, right? Whether it is selling an Apple iPhone, or whether it is running taxi services, or delivering food. You have a prototype, right? And what does that prototype mean? That it is a working model of a certain minimal quantity, which is functional, right? And you have a compelling business plan, and you have a team, right? So you have a business plan which at least exists on paper, which says, okay, fine, these are my key elements or levers of the business plan. These are my customers. This is going to be my team. These are going to be my costs, right? And this is how I will eventually break even. And these are the timelines, right? And here is a team that's going to work with me as far as execution of the idea is concerned, right? So now you have a blueprint. We try and we go about validating it, right? So you test and refine the business model, right? So you go out into the field, you test the business and the model and the product, and you realize that there is a paying customer at the other side of the product or the service. You do a few 1 or 2 cycles, you iterate. I think again, iteration is important. At the same time, you have to strike a balance between iterating and going out in the market, right? And this I say for a lot from a software standpoint as well. There is nothing. Remember this, please. There is nothing like a perfect product or a service. There's nothing perfect. Unless you go and put yourself out there, you will never know what's lacking, what's not. Even, I mean, our mobile phones are a case in point, right? We are on iPhone, what, 10 or 11 or something. Samsung is again on the 10th or the 12th or the 11th model. What does that tell us? And each model has sold several numbers, right? So what it tells us is, beyond the point, don't hold yourself back, right? Again, it's about sharing, it's about testing, and that is what the validate phase is. Go out there, see who's your customer, how much he's ready to pay, iterate. Let the unit economics also emerge, right? So if your cost of production is 50 and is the customer going to pay 30, 100, 70, what does it mean to run a unit? If you're going to set up a branch, if you're going to set up a shop, if you're going to set up a Kevinter's or a something which is going to sell pancakes, right? What does that one shop look like? What are the unit economics, right? If you want to have a chain of 100, at least first get the first one sorted out, right? And once you've got the founding team and a co-founder, who is your next level of management and how are you going to hire them? How are you going to incentivize them, right? So if you see, what it covers is essentially your market, which is what I talked about in a customer, then your product or service, your unit economics, and your team, right? Again, these themes will continue to grow and evolve as the business grows and evolves. So these are your key sort of ingredients, if I may call them, in terms of developing and taking your idea to scale, right? Okay, now what we do once we have a sense of what your customer and a demand is, a little bit of pricing, you've discovered a little, okay, fine, I think there might be some paying customers and this is the range of price, right? Then you prepare. What does this mean? You enhance the conditions, you go a little wider, right? And you try and test it with a little bit more people. You try and experiment with pricing, right? And you see different plans. You've gone to 2 or 3 cycles of the product or the service, right? Your unit economics start to become clearer, right? And in terms of timelines, you can say blueprint is the first 3 months, 3 to 9 months is validation, or 3 to 6 months, and the next 6 to 12 months is what you try and prepare, right? Where the unit starts sort of settling down or not settling down, right? And your team is in place, reasonable team is in place, and you can get a sense of what pricing can drive and what profitability can drive, right? And again, let me not just restrict it to this as a conversation in the context of a business, but let's even talk about marketing budgets, or even if you're in the HR team, right? You have all these principles apply there as well, right? So if you are if you floated a new leave policy, or if you floated a new timing policy, now in the context of COVID, you might have to stagger timings, right? So you validate it with a few people and a few set of employees staying in various locations, right? Or even work from home, right? And when you see that it's getting validated, you start preparing the entire organization, or start preparing entire teams to adopt that, right? And then is when the pop happens, what I call the pop, right? And the pop is when you scale up, when you take this solution to mass. Just doing a time check, okay? And you talk about expanding this across territories, and you going gangbusters, you're raising a lot of money. The organization has accepted your idea, your marketing is gone pan India, you are talking to the IPL folks to do a marketing plan and run a campaign, right? So that's where you get to the scale up, where you're talking about the next generation of products and services. What else can you sell, cross sell? What are the other revenue streams, right? You're achieving sustainability, right? You're beginning to break even at a company level, right? And you're becoming an organization which needs all the systems and the processes and the teams, right? Whether it is HR, MIS, audit, all of those start falling in place. So you're now looking at a well-oiled machinery, not a mature business, but a business which is now looking promising for and has started taking the next leap of faith and taking the next level of journey, right? So that's how you try and plan for an idea reaching what you can say scale. Okay, what are the challenges? We've talked about all the good stuff right now. There are several business challenges, whether it's the modern day startups, right, on the left hand side, or it's the brick and mortar models, right, on the right hand side. Unique challenges, okay. Difficult to access markets. How do you access markets, right? How do you acquire your customers? Again, it goes back to how you do your blueprint to validation to prepare to scale. uh, how do you understand? Business models are not established. Nobody knows how am I going to get paid. Let's talk about edtech, right? Edtech, when I say edtech, is technology in education based ideas. So Byju's is a prime example. Now if you look at Byju's journey, one of the first problems they had is how do you and if it's remote learning, how do you get people to pay, right? And we're talking about bite-sized learnings here. So let's assume, let's talk about a business where you are doing online tutoring. Okay, you're providing tutors to students, and you want to charge students uh, 10 rupees for every 15 minutes of a clip that they want to see, or a particular topic they want to cover. Now the question is, the idea is great, you have tutors, you have content, you have material, you have paying customers, but how do you get them to pay just 10 rupees, right? So this is an unestablished business model. We're talking about breaking down established principles of delivering education into smaller bite-sized consumption of education. It's like, if you guys won't know, but in FMCG, when shampoos used to get sold, the FMCG came up with the ideas of, actually India's a unique market of selling sachets, right? So we are the sachet kings of the world. We've consumed sachets on almost every product that has sachets in it, right? So how can you make a sachet out of something which is a service, which is something like education, right? And an established business model. But I'm just leaving you with how a lot of these businesses, whether brick and mortar and modern day startups, have coped with this, right? And thought about this. And that's where innovation happens, and that's where ideas come into play. And finally, when there is low customer affordability, right? India is again a country which thrives on discounts, which loves discounts. We hate to pay for anything, and even if it is affordable. So how do you drive affordable solutions, right? Can we use technology? Can we use local jugaad? Uh, can we use domestic inputs? Can we use our low cost labor, right? So how can we use our local ingredients, right? So how do you reach reach the lowest the customer with the lowest affordability, right? And that's where the gold mine is, if you ask me. If you can find ways to cross subsidize, if you can find ways to reduce costs, if you can find ways to make it affordable for the lowest rung of the customer, I think you've cracked it. Okay, so where are the scales, right? What kind of conversations or ideas are finding traction, right? Clearly, this is a slide which is coming more from startup and the funding world, in terms of what gets preferred at what stage. I think what people like to hear now is, fine, you thought about selling vada pavs online. Do you even have a single paying customer? Have you even started generating revenues, right? So show traction on revenues before you talk about ideas in a big way to at least external audiences. What I'm trying to say is, get beyond the blueprint or the validate stage before you start asking for money or raising capital, or you start talking a lot about your idea, right? You discuss it and you keep it to your friends and family, develop it. But what I'm trying to say here in this context is, show signs of revenue, right? That's when an idea really means a real idea, right? The other one you see is single founder versus co-founder. Clearly, co-founders are preferred, or are a preferred way of going about executing your idea. So please, if you have something in your head right now, go and find your co-founder right now. Speak to the person sitting next to you. Speak to the person you have known for 20 years. Speak to your parents. I think we don't undermine their experience. I think, what if nothing else, they will tell you what the older generation doesn't want to listen to or doesn't want to do. So that may itself be a validation point, right? Where are the scales again? As I said, this is the one that you see on the left hand side, growth versus profitability. Now, this is one of the most classic problem that we are facing in the last 5 years, right? And if you look at all the startups, and I get this question very often, whether it is any of the names, the most popular names, and all the apps that you open your mobile now, and all the apps that you see are generally doling out free stuff or heavily discounted stuff, right? They're all all blowing money by the tons, right, or losing money by the tons, and but growing rapidly, right? If you see the growth numbers, and this is a classic issue, right? Whether should I pursue growth or profitability, and are they mutually exclusive? I think till a certain point they are mutually exclusive, because if you want to acquire customers, you'll have to spend on that, you'll have to spend on marketing, and if you want to grow fast, I think they are mutually exclusive. If you want to grow very very rapidly, if you want to if you see the businesses that our fathers have built, right, the traditional businesses, they grew very gradually, right, and hence they were always profitable. And if you see the new age businesses, they have grown rapidly, but they are barely profitable, right, or not profitable. I think one of the companies that did an IPO, which is a cab hailing company, I don't want to name it, I think I can, it's Uber. And in its offer document, in its IPO document, one of the sentences that they wrote was they may never be profitable in their lifetimes. Okay. And here's a company which got valued at several $billions, right? And a company which is saying it to the public at large when it's going to raise an IPO that we may never be profitable in our lifetimes. So the question in front of us is, what do I chase? And again, a lot of people with great ideas come to me and say, Abhay, why don't you fund us and we will get to this growth very rapidly? And if you give people something, anything free, like we are all consumers of a lot of free stuff, growth will come, of course. But where is the profitability? Where is the unit economics? And I think there's a fine balance between the two. I'm a little bit of traditionalist on it. I prefer profitable growth than growing and then pursuing growth versus profitability. I think there are merits in both. I don't know which one will play out in the long term. In the long term, we're all dead, as they say. In the medium term, and what the last 5 years shows us is that a lot of wealth has been created pursuing growth. But of late, I think in the last 12, 18 months or so, when a lot of the growth-oriented startups or ideas have collapsed, right? I don't know whether it's WeWorks or whether some other collapses that we have seen or other shutdowns that we have seen. I think the scales are beginning to tilt a little bit towards profitability. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean, I think it doesn't mean that you don't pursue growth, but show me profitability sooner than later, right? If you're going to show me profitability 36 months down the line or 48 months down the line, I think you can slow down your growth and show it to me in 12 months, right? And again, this is for once your startup is beyond the validity or stage and is beginning to scale up, is when you will ask yourself this question. I have got a choice with with the $100 that I have raised, whether I strengthen and make my existing centers profitable, or do I open 10 more centers, or do I acquire 100,000 more customers, right? So if you imagine, if you have $100 in your pocket and you're faced with two choices, which is to invest in your existing centers and make them profitable, or hold that cash so that you can spend it while making the centers profitable, or you can open 10 more centers which each cost you $10, right? So that's the choice. And I think where we are is in between, where people are saying you reserve $50 for seeing yourself through the next 24 months and invest the other 50 in opening 5 more centers. So I think there's a fine balance, but the desire to see profitability is beginning to gain more ground, as we see a lot of startups burning and a lot of ideas getting burned in the pursuit for growth, right? The next one is interesting, whether you want clicks or bricks, right? And just let me elaborate. When you say bricks, it's the brick and mortar models, right? So imagine your physical stores versus your clicks, which is Amazon, which is not a physical store. And again, there is always a debate on which is better, what ideas work, which is scalable, not scalable. I think there is a balance. I think there is a balance in the world where you need both bricks and clicks. Not everything is going to get consumed over your mobile or your laptops. The physical world will exist. You will go out and play a sport. You will go out and watch a movie. You'll not always consume on Netflix. You will go out and shop, right? So the bricks and clicks are an even balance. And I think if you have an idea on either side, don't ignore it just because it's bricks, or just don't go madly after it just because it's clicks, right? Clicks make it very easy and sexy to develop and execute, because you're in your in your corner, in your cozy corner, working on your code or developing the software, or that's what the movies are made about, or that's what you read in the media. But guys, some people, bricks are here to stay, and bricks give you long-term sustainable wealth. So ideas rooted in bricks are equally worthy. Yeah. Finally, I have another 10 minutes, I guess, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just doing a time check. What do people want to hear? Okay. Now, here is where when you start talking about your idea, what do they want to hear? I want to bring this slide up again because I think a lot of us get lost in various elements of the idea. Try and follow these sort of four principles, right? What is my story? How did it all begin? Right? Where is this coming from? What is the seed or the root of the idea? Right? Why did I strike? Why did I come across this? What is the story? And please become good storytellers. I think I'm going to request the NK and this and the Nest Academy on running a session on how to tell good stories. I think storytelling is such a great big element of our lives and of how you bring your ideas to reality. Right? Learn the art of storytelling, guys. Learn the art of storytelling. It's extremely important. So what is your story? How did you come about it? Secondly, who's your team then? Who are you running the show with? The team, as I said, is the second most important element. For me, when I've been investing in businesses, for me there are three principles, and the first principle is promoters, founders. The second rule is promoters, founders, and the third rule is promoters, founders. And there's a metric around it which I don't want to go into in great detail, but I believe if the team is good, it can pull off anything. It can pull me out of a mess, and it can take me to great heights. So talk about your team, talk about your founders. Who are you running with? Who are the people behind you, with you, in front of you, right? The third is competition. I think we shy away from speaking about it. And when we shy away from speaking about it, we shy away from thinking about it, we shy away from evaluating it, we just shun it. It's like a blinkered approach. It's like the pigeon approach, where the pigeon never sees the cat, right? Or the cat never sees the pigeon, whichever way it is, right? It's trying to steal some milk and it never sees that it's going to get caught. Be very, very conscious and aware of your competition. Don't shy about talking about it. Don't be shy about discussing it. And what does that mean? It helps you to differentiate. It helps you to counter. It helps you to collaborate. It helps you to collaborate. We miss the element of collaboration with competition, right? It means that you collaborate and figure out how you can even work with competition. And the fourth is, as I said, when you've thought about your story and you've sold it to some people, what are the examples that you can talk about once you have tested the idea or the product, right? Be ready with examples, right? I haven't used much here. I have a case study. I don't know if the time will permit us to drive home the points. And this has been very dry. I generally like to bring it alive with examples, but this is a different session. But use examples and case studies and story and put them in your stories, right? That brings it alive. Unless you bring it alive, unless you make the person feel that it's he's going through the motions with you, no idea will ever sell or become a reality, right? So you have customer cases or use studies handy when you talk about or when you are even narrating your idea. Yeah. So, what's an idea? What's the recipe for an idea? It's written here: pint of passion. On the left hand side, you'll see confidence. You need a lot of luck, right, guys? It's sometimes being at the right place at the right time. You've got to hustle, right? Is the hustle is involved, right? You've seen this movie, right? Rocket Singh, Salesman of the Year. I think I love that movie. The guy is a hustler, right? He comes up with solutions on the go, right? And of course, there's a sizzling solution on the right hand side. You see, you have to take rejection on your shin. You have to move on. Don't let your shoulders drop, which is what motivation is all about. Hard work. So there will be at least once every month, every week, where you'll ask yourself, why am I doing this? What have I taken up, right? But that's the glory that comes with it, and that's the rejection that comes with it that keeps you going. That's what gives you the kicks, right? And you always must have some secret sauce, and the secret sauce may not be rocket science, guys. It could just be one nut bolt that you are moving in the counterclock direction, right? The secret sauce is your sauce. It could be something very plain and simple, but something that you know and you do very well. It need not be something complicated or a gadget or a wow moment. It is just simply how you tweak things, how you do them a little differently. That's the secret sauce or the difference between an Amazon and a Flipkart. They're both great, but they have their own secret sauces, right? How they receive your order, how they process your order, how they deliver it, and how they serve the customer, right? So they both have the secret sauce. And that's what I mean when you have your own edge, when you have your own sort of spark, right? I had kept some slides for a case study, which are towards the end of the session. We will go to them if we have the time, and we will sort of recap all that we have done, but I have recaps here. So quick recaps, the do's. What are the do's for an idea? Present only the facts. No faff, no universal statements, right? Just stick with the facts. Know your customer, guys. As I said, know your stakeholders, know your customer, know what their pain points are. As I said, demos always help, right? Demo means you can, so here is a case. The co-founder of Dunzo, he himself ran deliveries for several months before he actually went with the idea full scale, right? So do your demo yourself, right? If you're developing a product, then fine, you can run it on your own laptop or a mobile or whatever. Or if you're developing an app, run it on yourself, run it on your friends. If you're doing a service, run the service yourself. If it's going to be delivery, commuting, what have you, right? Run it yourself, and that's what helps you to iron out the business model. Ask for feedback. Okay, look for feedback. Don't shy away from getting negative feedback. We are very scared of saying, "Arey, what dunya kya sochegi? What will the world think?" Don't be afraid of feedback. Look at the milestones that you want to reach with each sort of step that you take. So feedback and milestones are linked, right? The milestones are the points at which you ask feedback. Okay, I reached, this milestone, which is, the product has got, or the service or the app has got 3 downloads or 10 downloads. Now let me ask for feedback. Okay, the 10 people are using it. So 10 was my milestone. I'm going to get them installed in 10 mobiles, and then I'm going to get a feedback, right? So what is your milestone and what's the feedback, right? What are the timelines and processes from stakeholders? So this is more of an investing point. So what is your process and timelines? When are you going to reach the next 100, 200, 500,000, and what are the timelines, right? What are the risks, right? What is the risk to my plan? Is it manpower risk? Is it competition? Is it technology? And how am I going to counter the risk, right? If there are areas you don't understand or there are gray areas, please be open to telling yourself that my idea, these are the unknowns in my idea, or this is what I don't know, right? In an idea, you're not supposed to know everything, but you're definitely supposed to know what you don't know. Okay, so ignorance is welcome, but you should be aware of your ignorance, right? Listen to people, and be willing to change, or be willing to pivot. Pivot is a term which is very constantly used in the context of ideas, which is, if a given idea is not working, how can I pivot it to make it a little different, right? So I know a friend of mine who started this business of operating a taxi service between cities, right? So the problem statement he identified was that it seems the market for, if you want to hire a cab between city A to city B, it is very unorganized. So let me see if I can do something. And this is around 5 years back. And gradually they pivoted towards running buses within the city, right? So when they realized that the idea of running cabs between cities was fairly challenging, they started pivoting it, and they started reckoning. So the customer was known that there is a transportation problem and the customers are facing problems actually getting to the point of where they can get a cab, right? So the services, the domestic transport service was much poorer, and there were solutions around it. So what I'm trying to do is, or tell you here, is that you may find that what the adjacent space, right? And this I've seen a lot in the gifting ideas, the gifting business ideas, right? People who started just generally gifting ideas move towards actually running businesses within what they were gifting, right? So then they started saying, okay, I find that there is a lot of demand for cakes being delivered or gifted. So can I become a specialist in cake manufacturing and cake, right? Can I become a mainstream cake brand, right? So that's how you pivot. When you find that, okay, just general gifting is not working, can I focus on cakes, right? So listen to your customer and be willing to change. How much time do I have? I have another 5 minutes. And then what are your timelines for closure? Here I meant is by funding, but we'll skip this point, right? What are the don'ts? Okay, it's equally important to know the don'ts. As I said, the ignorance part or the don'ts. Presenting only the big picture. Oh, India is a country of 130 crore people. At least 30 crore people will buy my product. Okay, this is the macro picture. I've heard this so many times. Oh, 25% market share, 30% market share, 30% market share in India. 130 crores, 30% is 39 crores. I have 40 crore customers. And 10 rupees per product, so 400 crores ka company hai. Wow, super. Bullshit. Okay. Break it down. What is your micro customer and your micro market, and then build it up from there, right? Only a macro picture doesn't impress me anymore. Oh, my idea has no competition. Nobody's doing this. I'm the only guy. I'm the only one who's thought of this. I'm the only one who can do this. Nobody else has thought of it. Guys, if there is a saying, if you are walking in a tunnel and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it could also be the train that's going to run you over, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, it could also be the train that's coming in your direction and run you over. So if nobody has done this before and nobody's doing it, then probably you're the only fool in the room. It could be great, fine, but I'm not ready to believe there's no competition, no work being done on it. You have not looked at it enough, or you're not dug deeper, or you're just not ready to accept that there is no competition. I think there is competition for everything. If you tell me, you come to me with an idea and say that there is no competition, or nobody's thought about it, or nothing has been done, I will take it with a real pinch of salt. Data, it is confidential and cannot be disclosed. I cannot tell you where this came from. It is, it is super. It's like, Mission Impossible, MI6. It's locked in that room, and only if you're Tom Cruise you can get it. No, be very open about it. This is the data. This is how I found it. This is, share bits and pieces. I'm not saying lay it out all out in the open. You should be very careful as well in the times that we live in. But don't be shy of sharing critical pieces that are critical to driving home the point that your idea is solid, right? Maintain or retain confidentiality as far as the secret sauce is concerned on how you are going to do it and what will make you different. But any data which supports that there is a problem and there is a customer, and there is data which supports that idea and that assertion, please share it, right? Don't keep everything to yourself. That's not how the world works. And I can tell you this, that most people will find the data, so if you give it to them, it will only make your job easier. This is a side hobby, I'm just doing it on the side, I like it, I'm fine. But if you're going to make it as a full-time business, then you've got to be full-time in the company, right? I think what I don't like is something which is too exotic. Okay, this is high awareness creation products. That's what I meant by high awareness creation products. I think sometimes, and again, there is a study which I will share with the organizers in due course, is that the simplest ideas work best and get the best traction, right? If you have something too exotic, too complicated, too much R&D, you will find that there are no takers, right? Because simply the cost of making it, probably only the military buys it, right? So the cost of making it, the cost of servicing it, the cost of delivering it, all of it is going to be too high, too exotic, which also means that you can't sell it to a billion people, right? Billion people need simple products and services, guys. We don't need complicated stuff in our house, in our lives. Our lives are already too complicated. So if you're going to, as I said, there's no perfect product, there's nothing too complicated. If it's something too complicated, most people who are even investing in an idea won't understand. Yaar, mujhe samajh mein nahi aa raha hai, right? Exhibiting desperation, right? Be calm, be cool. If you know your idea, if you have the confidence, don't get desperate, right? Desperate in any sense of the term, whether it is getting support for your idea or getting money or getting team. Stay confident, guys. Stay confident. Don't get desperate ever. And not updating as you go along, right? Whether it's a presentation material or your idea or the traction that you've made. I found people coming and making me presentations about the ideas which are like 6 months old or 1 year old, and then say, "Arey, abhi, ye to change ho gaya." So then why didn't you not change the presentation here? Okay, so be I'm not saying do it daily, yeah, every day, punch into your laptop and say, okay, fine, I need to, but make it at least monthly. Okay, I think that's a fair frequency, because the world does change enough in a month. I won't say weekly, I won't say quarterly. Quarterly is too long in my sense, and weekly is too frequent. I think a monthly check-in, just to see, particularly where there is data, where there is where there is, it's about a business model, whether it's distribution, whether it is HR practices, whether it is your product, there will be delta in a month. And just do put in a calendar check-in where you just go out there and just make some basic changes, particularly when you're going to present to a certain audience. Just ensure that it's updated at least. If I'm right now in June, my presentation should not be saying 1st of Jan. It can say 30th of April. 31st of May is great, but it can't say 1st of June, 1st of Jan. Yeah. All right. So this is your business plan or your idea. If it works, you get dollars. Else, you go back. Don't give up, guys. Don't ever give up. I think, but fail faster. Okay. Not giving up and failing faster are two different things. If it's not working, then go back. Right. Don't drag it beyond a point. If it works, then there is the dollar sign. Finally, this is what it looks like when your idea is, you've cracked your idea and it's made it. I love this photo. It's there is sand behind, there's a blue sky, blue ocean out there. and even a kid can do it, guys. So we are all grown-ups, and the world is there for the taking. I wish I was born 20 years later, because you guys are in the golden generation, the golden age. All right. I think I have spoken for enough time. It's 11:55. I will pause here and I will open it up to questions now. I will exit my
So that,
screen.
yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing now. Yeah.
So that was a wonderful insight. So, I mean, covered the new kind of startups like selling through the clicks and the brick and mortar startups. And definitely, yes, hustle is definitely very, very important right now. And also, you covered about identifying the right demand and structuring your business idea in that way. So we've received a couple of questions
Sure.
from the students, and in the meanwhile, while I'm asking the questions, if anybody else has any questions, please do drop them in the Q&A box. So, sir, there are a lot of questions coming in from the students that how can one determine whether one is ready to have some startup for a business? How can you determine that you're ready enough to go ahead on
See,
that path?
it's like asking when am I going to be ready for marriage? Yeah. You're always ready or never ready. Okay. The question is, do you, as I said, you follow the first principles. Is my do I have a bride or a groom, right? Which means, do I have a customer? Do I have demand? Do I have paying customers? Who's going to buy it? Do I even have my best friend believing in it? Do I have a team? If I'm going to speak to my best friend and he says, "भैया ये नहीं होने वाला है," so it's not going to happen. But doesn't mean that you stop. You speak to more people. But the fact is that, do you have an idea which sells to at least 5, 10, 15 people? Do you have an app which even 100 people are ready to install? uh, right, so you follow the first principles. What are my unit economics? Who is my team? And how will this scale, right? So if you have those ingredients, you have to, it's a leap of faith. Okay, it's a leap of faith. If you ask me, did Jeff Bezos know? He knew it, right? But it had to be a leap of faith, right? That let me, and unless you give it a shot, you're not going to figure out. You have to fall before you start running, right? You have to, before if you start running before you walking, that's going to be a challenge. But you can't say that I won't run ever. Start
Right,
walking, start taking baby steps,
right.
and I think get a team to get 2 or 3 people on the board, to sound it out of. Yeah.
Right. So definitely believing in oneself would be the key here, and taking that idea forward.
You
So,
saw that recipe. You need the passion. You need madness, right?
right,
All founders are mad. Okay, all no, they are not. There is a study. They're not regular people. So
right,
if you have to be irregular to do something big. Yeah.
right. There is the next question. So, how can one determine the startup costs and other expenses? Because it definitely this could vary from business to business, but any formula on weighing that?
Just open your spread. Just take a pen and paper. Right. Start writing down. Right. How much does it cost to make an app? Speak to people. You will find out. Okay, fine. If I want to make an app, it costs me 20,000 rupees, 50,000, whatever it takes me to do that. Do I need to pay people salaries in the meanwhile? Do I need to pay rent? Do I need real estate? Do I need employees? So what are your costs? Right. It's simple. It is no rocket science. We make it complicated for our lives. जस्ट एक पेन और पेपर लो, एक स्प्रेडशीट खोलो, उसमें यू स्टार्ट राइटिंग द लाइन आइटम्स. व्हाट आर द लाइन आइटम्स? द कॉस्ट आर, let's say if it's a product, what is your production cost, or what is your development cost, what is your manpower cost, what are your overheads? So if you are going to do it out of your office, out of your home or your office, so what is your rent, electricity, where are you going to sit out of? Is it going to be WeWorks? Is it going to be your dad's office? So there are no costs. Minimize costs at the beginning, and then okay, fine, this is what it's going to cost me to make the first one. It's going to be 50,000, 100,000 rupees, and this is my sunk cost. I can sell it for 50 rupees, 100 rupees a download, and hence, and these are my recurring costs, and this is the money I need for the first 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. This is the shortfall. It is very, very straightforward thinking. There is no rocket science, guys. Don't complicate your lives. It's very simple line items. You just need to sit down with a pen and paper and start doing it. It's your mom does it every day. How do you think she runs your how do you think she runs the budget for the house? That's what she
Correct,
does. She knows what's the money that's going to come in and what's the money that's going to go out.
right.
And there are various heads. Go and tell your mom to do it for you. She'll do it better than me or you or any of those complicated spreadsheets.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, starting off, listing down all the expenses, that would be one of the starting point here, and then definitely the list will go on, and somewhere we would know
And
where to stop and on
yeah,
profit. Right.
absolutely. I think, and you break down the cost, right? You know, what is the cost of development of the service or the product, right? There are that you call direct costs, and then you have your other expenses of running the business,
Right.
which is going to be salaries, rent,
Yeah.
electricity, other office expenses, other supplies that you want.
Correct.
And then if you're borrowing money, if you have to pay interest, that's another thing. If you're going to borrow 100,000 rupees from your dad and he's going to say, give me 1,000 rupees a month as interest, then you add that as well, right? So
Right.
it's just very simple, guys.
Right.
No complications. Keep it simple.
Right. Sir, there's a next question. Definitely for the business, there would be one needs to write a business plan. So, how do you go about writing the business plan? I'm sure that would be another detailed session, but in short, if you,
I but I just gave you the recipe, right? The
yeah,
business plan is those 3 or 4 or 5 steps, right? Of course, there are templates now available. You just do a googling and they will give you all the templates. But it's basically what is your product or your service?
right,
Okay, who is your market or your customer? Right? Who is? How are you going to? So it's what, who, why, and how, right? So what is your product and service? Who is your customer? How are you going to do it, and why are you doing it? Why will he buy it, and how will you do it? Right? So what,
right,
who, why, and how, and then who will do it is who also is your customer, and then your team and all your dynamics come in, right?
right,
So what, who, why, and how, and the team, and that's it. That's the business plan. 5 things that you have to write, and if you have it in your head, it's not a difficult challenge. Yes, there is data needed. There are, that you develop it from there, but it's not complicated, guys, and there are templates. It's about how much data you want have, and what kind of volume you want to write, and what is the requirement of the recipient or the stakeholder, but what, who, why, and how. That's it.
right,
And the
right.
team.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with that, the business plan is written, and questions coming in for now. We want to generate money for that startup. So,
Yes.
if you could give us some insight on angel investing, venture capital financing, and these terms.
Yes. So see, money. You need money, right? Yes, you will need money in the beginning to start any business. You need money, whether it is to develop the product, for working capital, and there is a whole. I mean, there is a whole session around it, right? In terms of where you can get money. I think the first one is, so if let's turn the tables, right? Who is most likely to spend or invest money in you is the person who trusts you the most or knows you the most, and that's going to be your friends and family, the ones close to you, right? So they're the ones who are going to do the first, who are likely and who must write the first checks for whatever you're doing, right? Whether the amounts don't matter, I think it's signaling. As if the people who know you most are not ready to give you any money, even if it's 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees or 5 lakh rupees, I don't care, right? Then there is some problem. Either the idea is not credible or you are not credible, right? So you have to look inwards for the first lot of money, even if it is 500 rupees. I don't really care, right?
Hmm.
And then you develop from there, right? Then you get, and then once you, so with every money will, with great power gates comes great responsibility. With money will come milestones, right? So
Right.
what is your first 100, 500, or 1,000 rupees going to help you achieve, right? Once you've shown that milestone, then everybody in the room, including the person who give the money and the person who wants to give you money, will be convinced, right?
Right.
So you got to raise your, and that's what the trend is. Of course, there is a lot of angel funding, and there is there is a lot of non-fems and family round. So speak to your network, speak to your father's friend, your mom's friends, speak to the kitty parties, tell them, go and pitch in the kitty party and say, okay, fine, ladies, this kitty party, this collection, you give it to me and I'll make it 10x, and this is the idea. See if
Right.
they buy it. They will ask you the most interesting questions, I'm telling you.
Right.
So, right, the first seeds of money, what I call seed capital, right? There are incubator. So there is both organized and unorganized way of raising money. Unorganized ways is what I'm describing. Then there are organized ways where there are seed funds, incubators, accelerators, sector specific, government intervention, right? So there is, but the question is, how do you even balance raising money with the business that you're running? Which is why I always maintain that the first set of money should come from internal folks, because that will be the most comfortable money, where if things go a little up or down, they're manageable relatively, right?
Correct.
Uh, but there are institutional ways, as I said, or systematic ways of money running, of raising money through angel funds or seed funds. There are organizations like ourselves, which we are running, which is Baytree, where we help startups raise money. So there are platforms. There are a whole bunch of people who are conspiring to help you. okay, conspiring to help you. So reach out to them, and they will make it happen.
Definitely. I'm sure.
So organized and unorganized ways. Unorganized ways I described to you. Your friends, family, everybody whom you have ever borrowed money from or who have borrowed money from you. And then there are organized ways which are, for seed stage, angel rounds, angel investors, incubators, accelerators, government labs, tech support, entrepreneur in residence work, systems, all of that.
Right, sure, sure. And sir, even this funding would not necessarily be only at the beginning of the startup, right? It could be at different stages as well.
Exactly. So there is a whole capital spectrum, and then there are players within that each stage of the capital spectrum, right? Right from a blueprint to scale up stage, there are different kinds of capitals that come in, right? There is your bank finance will not be available to you at a very early stage, but will be available to you tons in the later stage when they know you're a fairly good business. As they say, the banks give money to only people who don't want it. So
Correct.
when you've grown to that stage, banks will give you money, but at the earlier stage when the business is more risky, there are people with that kind of risk appetite who will say, I think this can become 100x, so I will make that risk with you. So there are different pots of capital available for different stages of the business, right? So I don't want to talk about it in this session in greater detail because that is a session by itself in terms of what pots of capital are available for what stages of the business.
Correct.
But I can tell you right from blueprint to scale, and which is what was covered in my case study as well. There are grant capital available. I didn't talk about grants, but there's a lot of grant support from philanthropists to seed ideas, right? So there is an Ascent business, which is supported by Ascent Foundation, which supports entrepreneurs, which is run by the Mariwala Family Foundation, right? Which supports entrepreneurs. And there is Nilan K's, there is Wipro, Ranges, a lot of our industrial support startups, right? And their foundation support startups. So there is a lot of, as I said, organized institutional support and unorganized friends and family support that you can look for at various stages.
Correct. So definitely that would be give a lot of guidance to the students out here on writing a effective business plan, having that conviction to convince the investors and then generate that money and the funding for the startups. With that, so there is another question that is coming in. So there are a lot of people asking that if you have a business idea while you're in the process of setting up that business, you get to know there are a lot of other people also who are working on the similar idea. So how do you stand
That
out among the crowd?
that's your secret sauce. Exactly. That's a great question. I like that. You would, as you asked, right? You might find people are developing something similar, something very same. You collaborate. Maybe you go and reach out to them and say, why are we both doing it differently? Let's join forces. It also means we save costs. We don't do dual marketing. Can we collaborate and work together from one joint company? That could be one way. Or you find your own secret sauce and you tell yourself and you know clearly why you will stand out, right? Whether it's so you an Apple is selling as much as a Samsung or a Google phone or an Oppo or an MI, right? So I think we often get bogged down by this question of competition and somebody else is doing it. I like to know what else somebody else is doing it, but if I'm confident that my service has an edge or has a secret sauce, I would go back to my next point, which the other point, which is the market size. In India, the market is too big for any one single player or one company to reach or satisfy
Correct.
any product or service, right? You need at least 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 players, right? And that is welcome for both the customers and the industry because there is just not one player whom the market depends on, right? So whether you
Correct.
look at any product or service, you have at least 2 to 4 players or 6 players. So
Correct.
don't be scared, don't be afraid. Let the competition thrive. That's good for you because he is going to advertise for you as well. If he is going to sell a mobile phone and people are going to start buying phones, then someday your phone will also sell if it has the muscle, right? So he's
Right.
doing marketing for you. So
Right.
if somebody is creating the market or developing the market, it's good for competition.
Exactly the same way that Nokia and BlackBerry entered the market, and after that, a lot of smartphones have
But
come
the
in.
question is, yeah, so then you have to stay ahead of the curve. That's a different point that you make, Sneha. But the question is that what should I be scared of competition? I think you should welcome competition as long as you have your edge, you know that you have a secret sauce. And as long as you know that this is an early stage of a market, it's not a mature market, it's not a saturated market. You should collaborate with competition, learn from competition, and coexist with competition, right? And thrive with competition. Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I hope Hiral, your question is answered, and you would take back these points with you at home. So there is one more question
Mhm.
that is coming in. So how would you how would you know and how would you design an app revenue model during the earlier stages of the startup?
So again, so there are what you call freemium models, right? You try and first develop an app where you then get customers who will adopt it, and then you see customer adoption, and then you see the curve. It's called an S curve. You see, okay, it's getting picked up, and then at a certain stage, when you think that they, it's like getting people used to a service and then start charging them for it, right? So there, if you see historically, there have been two case studies. One has been telecom. You see, they started with 16 rupees a minute, and now they're at 16 paise a minute or maybe lesser, right? And then you have customers like or you have companies like your food delivery companies or your product delivery companies which are not charging you anything for the service except that they're making money. So you have different ways of monetizing any service. You may charge the producer, you may charge the supplier, you may charge the customer, you may have advertising revenue. So the streams of revenue are for you to understand and monetize. Facebook is monetizing you as a customer for downloading Facebook, where it's making money off advertisements. That's the only money they're making, right?
Correct.
uh, uh, the telecom operators are making money out of selling data to you. You pay them directly, right? The product delivery companies are making money out of the producers, right? Which is whether whoever is developing a product, they have a commission there. The food delivery companies are making money both of you and of the restaurants, right? So
Correct.
there are various revenue models. It depends on what's your hook, right? What's your app? Who is your customer? Why will he consume it? And then who will pay for it, right? So sometimes the government pays for it, right? There are models, right? If you build a bridge, the government pay for you, and the public will use it, right? So there are B2C, B2B, B2G models. There are B2B2C. There are various combinations. It depends. And there is no generic answer to this except that you should know who your customer is, and you should know who's going to pay for it, right? So I
Absolutely.
cannot answer it unless I know the context of the business in which it is being spoken of, and what kind of app, what is that app about, who is the, is it going to be, is the parent who's going to pay for the student, why will they pay, what is the service, is it a healthcare app where the hospital will pay or the patient will pay, or somebody else who will pay, maybe advertisers will pay, whether the insurance companies will pay. It can come from various sources. You may not sometimes imagine who can pay for it, right?
Correct.
So policy bazaar, who is paying for policy bazaar? The advertisers are paying for it. You're buying a policy out there, right? But
Hmm.
who's paying for it?
Right.
Right, they're making the commissions of the leads that get generated, right? so
Mhm.
so there is it's very it can come from very surprising sources as well, the revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are just falling short on time. I'll just take the last two to three questions.
Sure.
So if there are any more questions, I would just request the students to quickly drop in there. There is one question. There are a lot of students who are still studying who are watching this session.
Hmm.
So any tips for them? How can they balance their student life and entrepreneurial life if they want to focus on getting a startup done?
Sleep for only 4 hours a day. Okay, that's your starting point. And stop Netflix, stop Amazon Prime if you're really passionate about your idea. Okay, no, on a serious note, guys, this is the best time for you to do this because your risk appetite is the highest. When I say risk appetite, you are not loaded with responsibilities, you barely have money to lose, so you only have money to gain. Okay, find out who's going to fund it, work overnight on it. कितना 4 घंटे का क्लास होता है? I don't know how many of you guys even end up attending classes. I've been a student as well, so no need of pulling a fast one that, oh, we are studying 16 hours a day. Okay, I have found the best ideas coming out of the IITians who study for 12, 14, 16 hours a day and also come up with inventions, right, and ideas. So the fact that studies and ideas are not mutually exclusive. In fact, you have your best of the friends out there. You have the highest level of energies, the highest risk appetite. You have your student community to experiment any idea with, right? If you develop an app, ask your 100 friends in the college to download it and tell you about it, right? You have 100 friends, tell them each to give you $1,000 and tell them that I'm going to return it, 10x 10 years down the line. They will all give you $1,000. $1,000 is not a big deal, right? This is the best time, but then you need to be focused about it. You need to have your team. You need to have dedicated times around it, and you need to have that passion. I think it's about raw passion. This, as I said, I wish I was born 20 years later because I would be then with you in the college and doing a lot of the experimentation, which I find a lot of the college kids doing right now. uh, I think I should be asking the question, why are you not on an idea? Guys, why are you not on an idea? Why are you not running an idea or a project? Please give me 3 reasons. Actually, type it out why you're not doing it. I can see this question and answer sort of window out with me. I want to you guys to tell me why you all are not working on an idea. To a group of 2 or 4 of you should be working on an idea, and every 3 months, if it doesn't work, you should be on the next one. So in your 4 years, you should have worked on at least 16 ideas. That the 16th one should be the best one, right? If you haven't come across the first or the second or the third one, every 3 months an idea, so that by the second year you worked on 8 of them, and the ninth one you're smart enough to know what's going to work, and in the third year you have done it and you have made it. And you have the team, you have the you know where you're going to hustle the money from, what kind of market, you should have known it. Every 3 months you guys have to tell me why you're not working on an idea. I'm not going to tell you how you should work on an idea.
Right. So definitely that's a great takeaway for the students, because I'm sure a lot of sports management students are also watching, and a lot of other students are also watching. And uh, at the Sports Management Institute, what we also do is at the first term of the year, they all of them, they take projects on coming up with one idea what they would like to start with, and where they would want to establish their business and what.
Guys, I can tell you, sorry, it's not to interject.
Yeah.
This is the best time. I'll tell you why. Once you get out of college, you start doing a job, you will always, you'll see some money coming in as salary. You'll be like, "Arey yaar, main is job kaise chhodunga? I'm going to make this salary versus what I'm going to make in an idea." And then you, as life progresses, you'll get jammed and locked into more of this salary and the other responsibility business. You'll be running the house. You will have to give money here or there or whatever, right? Right now, as I said, your risk appetite is the max. You have nothing to lose. You have only the upside. Make the most of this. As I said, you must have it in your mind. It doesn't matter whether NASM is giving you a project or not. You should have an idea every 3 months, and within the second or the third year, or the third or the fourth idea, you should know what you're going to do and run with it, blinkered with the thought of making it big, right? So make the most of this time, guys. Don't let it go waste. Don't get caught up in the daily rigmarole and just the academics or just the coursework. Yeah.
Correct. And right now, all the more, because everybody is, I'm sure, having more time at hand than before. The traveling time has reduced, so I am sure the students will be able to put in some more time. And when we open up again, they'll be coming back with a lot of great
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
With that, so just one more question, that is, after this pandemic, what do you think will be the effect on startups, or any tips on that?
See, that goes to my slide of saying cash is king, right? So I think this is, I wouldn't, I wouldn't, I would say the future is quite is certainly uncertain. Okay, what does that mean? Is that in terms of startups, I think this will mean that uh, the true ones will stand out, right? The ones which are well funded will stand out. The ones which truly meet those conditions of a paying customer and a solid service and a secret sauce and a great team and a product market fit will stand out. The unit economics are sorted. All those will get tested right now, guys. This is the time where as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes, when everybody looks great when the tide is up. Where it's only when the tide goes down you find who's naked, right? So this is the time when the tide is gone down. You'll find out who's wearing the emperor's clothes and who's well dressed. And that's what's going to happen to the startup world. What we're seeing is we're asking companies to conserve cash, to take good care of the customers, contain costs, reduce overheads where possible, reduce wasteful expenditures. And what we're seeing is the companies that have a great product market fit are sailing through. Who had a great business idea, had a good secret sauce, are going to get through and going to emerge stronger and bigger and better. Right? This is what is going to happen, whether it is a startup world, whether it is even well-oiled machineries or larger companies. Those that took care of their employees, those who had a great founding team, those who had a great product market fit, had great unit economics, are going to come out guns blazing. I don't know if the recovery is going to be U, V, W, L, all those alphabets being said, but doesn't matter. I think the world is not going to come to an end. You and I will go back and consume. It might be slower. Again, GDP growth rates, recovery, all of that is fine. But I think we will need companies to service us, to provide us with products and services, and the good ones will stand out. Absolutely.
Sure. And with that, a lot of newer ideas will definitely be required to tackle these kind of
Absolutely,
challenges.
absolutely. We will live in a different COVID world, COVID world, yeah, post-COVID world. So I think there will be
The
room
new
for
normal,
innovation.
as they say.
The new normal, yeah, and there'll be room for innovation, guys. So start thinking about what you want to do after this lockdown lifts and the world resumes.
Right, right, right. Just one last question for the day, sir. Any books that you would recommend or any autobiographies that you would recommend our students to read?
Read Michelle Obama. That's good. Okay, so there are quite a few. Even Steve Jobs is good. I like Jack Welch is good. Lee Iacocca is great. All those are the older ones, but the principles still remain. Um, yeah, I think those three or four are good. Even McDonald's is good. Behind the Arches, Straight from the Gut, Lee Iacocca. Um, yeah, I think those are good. I think these four or five or six. If you've got time away from your Netflix and Amazon Primes, then I think you have enough material.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they will make a note of this and they will start reading that. With that, sir, thank you so much for
Thank
sparing
you.
time for this session. And this has given a lot of insights to the students. And I'm sure the students have got a nice pathway to, a startup success. And they will be taking away, some learnings from this. And in their student life, definitely they will start with that hustle right now and keep going continually on that.
Let's do.
Uh, yes. And with that, I would also like to thank Dr. Mrs. Ansi Rose ma'am for her vision and opening the doors for a rising career in sports management for the youth. And we wish to express our sincere gratitude to Varsha ma'am as well, Dr. Mrs. Varsha Ainapure, for giving us this opportunity. I once again thank Abhay sir to take the time out today and share his knowledge and experience with our viewers. Before we sign off for today, I would just like to make a small announcement. We have sessions lined up. The next session for corporate dynamics will be on Saturday, 11 a.m. If you haven't registered, do register and please spread the word among your friends. Do let us know your feedbacks for today's session. You can tag us on your stories, follow us on social media handles of Mission Skills, Nagindas Khanwala College, and NASM. You can definitely share your feedback, let us know that. And a special thanks to the organizing committee of Mission Skills for their support and coordination. Big thanks to all the attendees who are attending today's webinar for their kind presence. And thank you to all the people who've directly and indirectly contributed to this. With that, I would just sign off. Stay home, stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Neha.